Welcome back, everyone. Without further delay, let's hop on to our next panel discussion: the future of digital payments, pathways to thrive the Indian digital economy. For which I would like to welcome Mr. Prasanna Lohar, Vice President Technology, Digital Innovations and Architecture, DCB Bank, Mr. Jagdish Narayanan, Chief Information Officer, Reliance Jio Payment Bank, Mr. Anup Seth, Chief Distribution Officer, Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance, Mr. Sumoth, Vice President and Head Digital Banking, Federal Bank. A very warm welcome to you all. I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Prasanna Lohar, Vice President Technology from DCB Bank, to take it further. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pratiksha, for initial introduction. So I think we'll have a great discussion today with big experts of the Indian ecosystem. We have Jagdish, Anup, and Sumoth. I think what we are seeing is rise of this payment ecosystem, right? Since 2014, 15, post demonetization, right? A lot of innovations has done by the payment ecosystem by National Payment Corporation of India. We have seen IMPS, NFS centralization, followed by UPI, which is a landscape changing exercise which happened in the 16, quite well lifted up by banks post demonetization, right? And I think today people can't imagine their payment without GPays and phone pays, which is riding on the railroad of UPI, and that gives a lot of momentum for RBI and the banks. They can do a lot of innovations into payment ecosystem. I think 2016 was an era where data also being started utilizing in India. Geo has done that kind of a movement, and I think it was a good year. We have seen, right. And now post recent budget 2022, which was being announced, which is a tech kind of a budget by Honorable Finance Minister Sitaraman. So I think let's begin with the discussion. I'll start with Mr. Anup. Anup, you have seen a lot of news around digital rupees. We are seeing like budget is expecting every Indian should have a payment ecosystem kind of a ecosystem available wherever he is in cities or villages, right? And banks or insurance companies are there to serve banking services. There are a lot of challenging opportunities are coming like fintechs, neobanks. I think India is at a beautiful junction, but here onwards we have to take our journey very beautifully, as well as we need to take care of lot many regulatory aspects, lot of fundamental aspects which technology to be adopted. People are talking about cryptos and so many things. New type of customer millionaires are very gungo about DeFi's. I think what is that driving since last 4 or 5 years. So I think Anup, let's begin with you, and then we'll go ahead with Mr. Jagdish and Sumoth. Yeah.
So thanks, Prasanna. I think there's an interesting question. I'm going to sort of make reference to the backdrop that you set for the discussion, which covered 2014, the demon side of the whole thing, which covered government, sort of pivot towards building a digital ecosystem, also reference to the budget. So I think just to say upfront, the government is definitely putting the right digital payment stacks in place for building digital payment ecosystem. I think your reference to Demon, I think Demon did to payments what happened to license Raj sort of getting abolished in 91, or what Geo did very recently to data connectivity. And with their launch, they almost liberalized and got the entire India on a very digital platform of a different order. I think that is the pivoting change that led to it. In my view, I think some of the things that government is sort of working on, especially the reference to the Honorable Finance Minister on India Amrit Kal, which sort of made a decisive move towards the India digital ecosystem. I think some of the things that the government has done towards the fintech ecosystem led by the India stack, the fact that India is talking about, the three critical elements around making sure the Aadhaar, KYC, the UPI, the data empowerment that's going to looking at from a digital locker, from a aggregator framework, are structural, are pivotal. I think we've seen it happen across the globes. I think when there are some pivotal decisions taken by the government on setting the sort of the bedrock for digital payments, a disruption of a different order. I think the real fact is that the India stack had enabled roughly 2.8 billion transactions on mobile payments, and roughly 5.47 trillion dollars in 5.47 trillion real time payments were done. I think the real sense is, the explosion that has happened with UPI, which has become the single largest retailer payment in the country, have processed over 30 billion transaction in FY22 already. This is December. Shows that India is now transacting digitally at a different level. A reference towards GPay, Bharat Pay, Geo Payments Bank, and those, I think it's transforming. I think, in a real sense, what I certainly see, some of the things that were barriers to consumer confidence on the transacting online, whether it is the retail consumer transacting, whether it is the institutional consumer transacting, has been almost pivoted. Yet it creates new risk around infosec fraud. I think there is some work that needs to be done for transactions to move to a very different order. If you go back and look at some of the surveys which were done earlier, which says 53% of the economy today still believes in cash as transaction, which means a lot part of the economy still has the traditional mindset. A lot of those have to be ported, and that will only happen once the confidence and the infrastructure from a security, from a monetization of getting everybody access to payments will liberalize. So in my view, with the right notice, government is taking all fundamental steps. The recognition of even crypto from the government by levying a tax on crypto is sort of disrupting in a different sense. And so lots of positives, but one has to sort of get a larger set of the economy ported onto this platform, and will take some doing. And I'm sure that India will sort of structurally move in that direction. So that's my view to start off the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the at the end crypto, right? And
Yeah.
there are some not exactly crypto, but a virtual digital asset was
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
reported
Yeah.
during the budget, and that has made, I think that day was only crypto or a digital virtual asset trending on a Twitter, right? And people were
Yeah.
happy by saying ki it is a good move or something like that. And today, Honorable RBI governors spoke, right? Cryptocurrencies are not really great in that direction as far as the Indian ecosystem concerned. I certainly agree with that, because there are no adequate use cases or no backing by any of those perfect assets, right?
Yeah.
I will be happy to see some kind of a wheat coin backed by a wheat, and wherein the price goes up and down based upon the prices of the wheat, right? And which is a
Yeah.
fair game, which is typically happens in current Indian rupees also. And moreover, we'll do away with a lot of those operation challenges, compliance challenges. We'll have a better transparency. That's why we have to utilize this technology all about. I think, but it takes a lot of awareness within the ecosystem to see actual use cases, and typically this is being driven by millennials who are coming up, right? I think we need to have an equilibrium, having right technology for right use cases to begin with, right? So Jagdish, what is your view about, while Anup has mentioned not many things about how UPI or how digital payment is going up, and Reliance or Geo is being at a front runner, that they have started this data movement, and I think we are really relying on that data movement now, right? And I think after 10 years, we'll remember once upon a time we used to be in that 2000 era, we used to carry those feature phones, smartphones, and and wherein we will see. So, what's your view? How the future of digital payment is geared up for changing in India? Yeah, you are on mute, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prasanna. Thank you for getting me on this panel, and I very much, feel honored to be on this panel. On this digital panel, on this digital payments roadmap, like you rightly mentioned, and Anup just referred to also the same points. We've seen a lot of inflection points over the last uh, decade or so. Be it the digital, the explosion of the digital payment stack, the data explosion, all of that. Fundamentally, uh, the way I see it, and Anup also referred to it a couple of times, was like the India stack. I mean, basically trying to say, okay, what is just deconstructing digital to brass tacks and saying what is it. It basically means as much as I can get rid of any form of physical uh, money, be it cash, be it plastic, or anything, and just and have the same level of authenticity, authorization, and security, and transparency in the transaction. That's what makes it as simple. So they said, okay, fine. Can we use Aadhaar as a way of authenticating the person to make sure that this is the person? There's a non-repudiation issue there. So you make sure that you authenticate it using that. Okay, then that brings in a whole bunch of things. Now, if I say Aadhaar, uh, there are two things I can do. I can just use that and make a digital payment. I can just transfer money from one onto the other. I can in fact use it even for a physical payment. I mean, this AEPS, right? I can actually withdraw cash and deposit cash using Aadhaar. So it's not just transferring money digitally. You can even enter it's a physical kind of thing. Likewise, UPI, the biggest democratization of payments, basically simplistically saying that the account and the money is held at a bank does not force me to use that bank's assets only as my payment vehicle. I have my account with X bank. That's okay. That's fine. I have money with my account, in a particular bank. But I can just use the app and the assets provided by any provider, any fintech provider who's an authorized PSP, to come and provide me the app, and I can use that and link my account and do my payments, and then do all my transactions on that. Be it P2P, P2M, merchant payments, all kinds of transactions, QR code, everything. So it straight away brought in a huge number of players into the market, the fintech players, who may or may not necessarily have a banking license. Most of them don't, in fact, and they don't need to, for that matter. Which means that their ability to play in this space just got widened drastically in just one mighty blow. So while on the one side the customer obviously got this great choice of with my same account I decide, okay, whether GPay is better, or GeoPay is better, or PhonePay is better, or Paytm is better, and the account is the same. And until yesterday, I didn't have the choice. I had to use the same asset that account provided me with. Okay, so that democratization by just delinking the interface from the account itself made a huge difference and gave me a huge plethora of choices. And the third thing that has happened is that it has and all of these happy or not so happy events, be it demon, be it the pandemic, and be it whatever, they have all just sort of exacerbated and accelerated some of these things, because it just made them absolutely necessary. You just could not do without them. And what it did is it just brought a larger sort of share of the population who were, quote unquote, a little bit on the fence, who were slightly uncertain, who were slightly unsure earlier as to whether to get onto the digital bandwagon or not. Many of them had to hop onto the bandwagon because partially because of compulsion, partially because there was no other option, whatever, and that just brought in a lot more people into the picture. Now, for the further expansion, I always keep saying this mostly, is to sort of, as far as possible, demystify payments uh, to the extent that we can. Now, I still have a situation in my house. If I go and tell my family about RTGS, IMPS, NEFT, they just get psyched. They have no idea what is what. And they're like, tell me, if I need to just pay auntie, what do I do? Don't tell me all these four-letter words. I don't know what they are. Okay, and this is the typical situation that I see almost everywhere that we go. So you have to be, a fintech or a banker or whatever to know some of these terminologies. Otherwise, you have no idea, what, you just say, no, RTGS is about 2 lakhs, something is below 2 lakhs. Can't you just give me one thing and tell me how to transfer the money from here to there? That demystification, simplification, and making it look that it is as easy as just transacting simply. That is what needs to happen, so that it's a lot more personal. And at the same time, now with uh, the the data availability, it also the next sort of leap needs to be to understand the data more meaningfully. Today, what I still see to a large extent is it's sort of carpet bombing. You just get, everybody gets the same offer, and whether it's relevant or not. So you just have 500 million people getting the same offer, and possibly less than maybe half a million or a quarter of a million or even less probably are interested even in looking at that offer. So that kind of thing should get more personalized and specific, and that's when the adoption will get even more easier and wider, because then you know that what you're getting is exactly what you need, and that's when we'll see a higher degree of thing. And of course, at the back, security, and like Anup rightly referred to it, the unfortunate part about the good things like expansion is that even with the expansion of good stuff, the underlying fraud and other not so good stuff also expands, unfortunately, at the same speed, and that needs to be curtailed, and that needs to be tracked and stopped much more aggressively. That's a critical thing in my opinion. Prasanna, sorry, you're on mute. Sorry.
I think great views, Jagdish ji. I think last line which you spoke about the security, I think Anup also mentioned the same thing. And what is that typically we have seen last 20 years? We bring some technology, we bring some ecosystem, and to safeguard that, we bring another technology, right? So that's how we have seen, right? And the way it is being architectured today on Web 2.0, where we have a typical database, middleware, front, and a lot of ecosystems about WAFs on firewalls and to monitor that socks and so on. This is what we have done. There are a lot of path breaking technologies are coming, which will say, I think this was not done the way it should be done, right? Maybe emerging techs can come and help us in that direction. But coming to Sumoth, I think Sumoth being at a federal bank, and people look at federal bank as one of those tech-savvy digital bank riding on open banking. Whenever we look at the charts at RBI, we always say see federal on the top. What is the success story behind it? How do you guys achieve it, right? Because as a banker, I always do the same thing, but would like to understand what's your view about what is happening on digital payments and how federal is really accelerating that movement for their customers. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks, Prasanna, for the question. Uh, since you mentioned about the digital payments and how Federal Bank is achieving that, of course, maybe from the last two decades more, we are just concentrating on the payment side from the scratch. And if you look at the system ecosystem evolving, maybe basically I can start from one of the core business, or one of the core business for the Federal Bank is remittance business, cross-border inward remittance business. So right now Federal Bank is handling almost 20% of the total inward remittance coming to India. So it's the pipe is Federal Bank, passed through Federal Bank. So if we can talk about the involvement of digital payments there, we started with the DD drawing arrangement with all the exchange houses and foreign banks. Now I don't think the present generation even knows what a DD is. They don't know full form of a DD. We started with that journey, DD drawing arrangements. Then we moved to the direct integrations with the exchange houses, so that money flows from that exchange house, that overseas remitter who goes to that exchange house and pays money at that particular money house or bank, and it moves to Federal Bank, and then it goes as a cash out to the beneficiary at the early stages. So then what we done was that I'm just putting this remittance example how the digital payment system evolved. And then we had integrated direct API integrations with those exchange houses, so that as soon as the money gets remitted as the overseas branch, it immediately within microseconds it gets credited to the beneficiary account in Federal Bank. So that we had cases where the beneficiary, maybe the father, mother, or a brother of the NRI, especially we have got significant percent of our customers, NRI customers in Middle East GCC countries. So basically, earlier, I'm talking about maybe 15 years earlier, most of them were blue collar workers. So their parents, mother, brother, or they actually wait at Federal Bank branch, and they get a call from their relative at overseas that I just transferred money. Immediately, they took and withdraw the cash. That was earlier scenario. But after the onward of other digital payments, of course, they don't want immediate cash. They know at any point of time I can go to an ATM and withdraw cash. So I need not withdraw the cash, entire cash immediately. My funds are secure in the bank account itself. So that is the second phase on the digital payment remittance business we have done, and right now we got around 100 plus partners in the Middle East on the remittance business. Plus, 2 years back, actually, we have piloted on a blockchain technology with along with some of the partners for using blockchain technology for remittance. But what happens is similar to UPay, maybe 2016 or 17, the ecosystem has to evolve. When UPI started, nobody was they are not doing UPI much because I don't have use case, or everyone has to be in that ecosystem for the UPI. So this is the same case I'm seeing on the blockchain in the remittance business right now. The ecosystem has to evolve. All the partners, whether it's banks or other exchange houses or the Indian money houses, everyone has to come together in the ecosystem because blockchain is an open ledger technology. So only one institution or a one-to-one institution, of course, it will work, but that doesn't add value or it doesn't increase volumes. So the ecosystem is still evolving on the blockchain technology. That's the next phase I am seeing on the remittance side. That's on the payments. And the second question which you asked, of course, we are one of the maybe last year we had landed second in the digital payment index of the M80 dashboard. So basically, 2 or 3 things actually what we are concentrating, which helped us to reach this stage. One, what do you say? Our customers, maybe it's spread across the country, but 50% of it is South India. But earlier there were some sort of awareness issues with the customers on the digital payments and all. So what we have done is we have selected one representative from each branch, and we call them digital beacons. So their sole purpose is to educate the customers and make awareness to them how easy to make the digital payments and how secure it is to make, because security comes along with the easiness. So how they have to give that confidence that how secure the digital payments has to happen, or there is no purpose angle. So this is so easy. With 2 press of the buttons, you can transfer money, and it's with the secure with the PIN or biometric. So that field level, at the minute level engagements we had done with the customers on one side. Second side, on with the employees, banks employees itself, we have done maybe monthly awareness sessions, discussions, and we have got actually various regions and zones across the country. The branches are split up. So there also we posted banks on some of the senior employees as our digital banking ambassadors. So these people also give training. That's internal training to the employees, how to give traction, or what all things can be migrated. So all these factors helped us to increase our digital penetration. Second, another thing which we are now concentrating, we are all talking about digital payments. So that's only one part. There are a lot of non-financial transactions happening in the ecosystem. So that also should come into the digital mode. Then only the entire ecosystem will evolve, and people see, for example, if you want to request for a checkbook, I need not people know now. I need not walk to the branch now. I can use my mobile banking or net banking, or even go in the ATM and request for a checkbook. So such requests, because that's somewhat people also get some more confidence doing non-financial transaction over digital mode. So that is somehow inflection point where we can teach that, okay, you start with non-financial transaction in digital mode. You get that confidence. You just slowly move to the digital mode for the payments. So that's a evolution stage that we have done for the last maybe one decade or so. So that actually brought together all the digital payments system for the bank.
So I think great views from all of you all. What has happened, right? What is happening so far? We spoke about demonetization, UPI, digital payment movement. We spoke about what was happening so far since last so many years until now. And now we are in a time where we are hearing a lot of things around digital rupee, CBDC, unicorns, so many startups, BNPL, so many jargons are coming, and those are real things, right? Which are going to happen, right? So, Anup, what do you feel, right? We have experience of UPI, we have experience of NFS, we have experience of account aggregator also still yet to get actual momentum around that, right? We have experience of some of those ecosystem came and vanished, like USSD, right? Which NPCI tried, e-rupee, it to come to that level, right? We keep on see what happens in India. Something comes from top, and automatically it get like demonetization came in, happened, and impact was huge. UPI due to BMAP, and it was being picked up by heavy duty big tech companies. It is happening. So how do we go here onwards, right? So lot of agenda, budget is announced, digital payments, every India should get. Insurance is speak about, there is a lot of gap, right? Where a lot of work is to do, and every fintech run around only lending or fintech side, right? So what is your suggestion? What is the railroad here onwards? Yeah, let's understand from all of you all. Yeah.
So I think firstly I must appreciate Jagdish and Sumoth for some very enriching information that has been shared. I think this question is so structural that I don't think I'm capable of answering what the payment system should do to be able to port more customers. But let me give you my shot on this one. I think clearly the the India stack, which is sort of structural to making sure that when the growth sort of tippers to another level, we don't fail. Because it's very easy to sort of port consumers and port everything that they consume using the digital ecosystem to consume it. The trouble will be that you will lose confidence on transaction platform. You lose confidence on a new way of being, and this is very very structural. I think the government has to be optimistic but cautiously optimistic and making sure that the structural framework is in place. I think the second most pivotal thing in my view is I think the awareness of what I think Jagdish was alluding towards. Terms like NEFT, terms like crypto, terms like transaction of cities platform. People don't understand it. Being in financial services, I can tell you, a lot of people don't understand those terms even today as well. The trick the government has to do, and that is the responsibility of not just the government but every institution, financial institution and schools and colleges, to be able to educate people on how to use a platform. For instance, when we were in school, uh, you know uh, we were never taught about financial instrument or services. In fact, I don't think we were even taught how to write a checkbook and what the difference between a check and a demand draft was. That I think something at grassroots level has to change. The reality is, it's a more convenient world to be in. Doing digital transaction, it is in some sense, I would say, the white economy and the clear economy, and takes away inefficiencies. For instance, I can give an example. When we were in old world 10 years back, tolls we used to pay cash. It used to cause blocks of people waiting in cars to get the exact change. Right now you're just swiping it through the card and you're just moving ahead your car. And technically, all that is making India efficient. You're not underutilizing the labor. You're not causing inefficiency on people. You can use people for more productive things, and that's what is happening. I remember at 25 years back when I passed B school, I remember my friends who were CA used to tally manually entries in and out. Right now, digital ecosystem, it's a back of a click, a few microseconds, and your ledgers are tallied, and that's the world we want to be in. And that's the world of which is an efficient being of a human being. But education, structural stacks getting laid out, making sure that when you pivot, the reality of human behavior is we either pivot structurally or we pivot transactionally. If the pivot has to happen structurally, you can't say some assets or some consumptions are digital, well, rest of the world will remain physical for you. You have to make sure that not just your stack of ecosystem, but your players that you or products that you want to consume or service that you want to consume are also enabled to accept digital payments, whether micro, whether large transaction. That stack is also built. So it's a it's a stack laying, it's an awareness, it's education, it's also having the entire product and service consumption moving online and not just a few categories. That to me is sort of a real shift in behavior that's going to happen. It's almost closer to saying 25 years back, I used to book my travel through travel agent. Now I don't do that. I don't do it. My mother doesn't do it. I'm sure if my grandmother was alive, she wouldn't do it. My kids definitely don't do it. That pivot happened because the irreversible behavioral change happened because of online travel, which not only just did air booking, but customized your travel package to the T, gave you great deals, choices that your travel agent couldn't do. In a few seconds, you can do all of that. That pivot happened. It takes a lot of pivots to change structural behaviors, and that's we have to be cognizant about. So that's my limited, generic understanding of consumer behavior that I'm sharing. So maybe Jagdish and Sumoth can share more details. I think
Okay,
they've.
I think the way you have explained, I'm not sure the way you started explaining just upon your own story and how it is really changed the whole thing, right? And that is what the opportunity for every ecosystem which is coming in, right? we keep on hearing Aadhaar, and Aadhaar has really done massive work for India, right? Just imagine earlier days, if you want a SIM card, it used to take 8 hours or maybe more than that. Right? Then paperwork, we have to call several times to that SME that whether I got SIM card or not. I think it has changed, and Aadhaar is everywhere, right? So onboarding of a customer, banks are utilizing it heavily. I think over to Jagdish, like Geo Payments Bank, right? Being announced, there are so many years has happened. We have seen there are many other ecosystems are coming like fintechs and so on. They also want to be part of that ecosystem. So what is there for now banks, right? How here onwards we should have the journey, right? We have done so far. Yeah, over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a great question, and I really like the point of view that Anup just presented. It was a wonderful point of view, and I just take out from there really. Uh, the point about increasing awareness, which means demystifying. Again, I say this in a few times. Let's remember that at the end of all of this, the customer is still a human being. He's not digital. He's still very, very human. So how we can make all of our transactions human and interact with the customer in a human way. Second thing is to make it available across all the things. Like for example, I know you personally referred to USSD, which kind of came in a blip and kind of just didn't stay. But now NPCA is talking about offline UPI, and that's a very important thing because with the explosion of UPI, one of the important things it fundamentally assumes is that the customer is at a location where the data connectivity is good, because it does a lot of online APIs back and forth in a single transaction. Now, if the customer is not at a location where the connectivity is that good, then a UPI transaction may not be that successful. So that now NPCI is trying to address it through the offline UPI, which is a very, very important thing because we should assume that the connectivity in large parts of the country is still not as good as we would like it to be, although it's improving. So that is the other important thing. And the third important thing is how can we integrate all the services using the digital ecosystem into a seamless one. Like again, the example I'm just taking out from what Anup just referred to, saying, look, I used to book tickets through a travel agent, 25 years ago, but I know obviously no, I no longer have to do that. Now, how much of a journey can I book in a single transaction today? Can I just book my travel tickets? Can I book, my local transport? Can I book my hotel? Can I book, anything beyond that, as a whole, and make it because everything can be done digitally. So technically, bringing all of the services and integrating them together gives me that much more better ability to use the whole system in a single shot. And underpinning all of this is um, is availability, is the expectation and is sort of the absolute necessity that the services are available and reliable absolutely 24 by 7. I keep saying this quite a few times that unfortunately, in all our lives also, barring emergency healthcare, it's possibly only payments, for the most part, except for the occasional time, that we will necessarily expect to do 24 by 7. I mean, it's highly unlikely that in the middle of the night I'll say, boss, I want to buy insurance right now at 12 a.m. Less likely. I'll probably be ready to wait till tomorrow morning. I might be okay to do that. But if a friend calls up and says, I just need money immediately right now, can you just lend me some 10,000 rupees right now? I would want to make that payment at 12 a.m. instantly. And if at that minute, if my system doesn't service me well, I am not going to be a happy man. So that's the hard truth about payments, is that the availability expectations is around the clock, no matter what. Even the slightest downtimes, and we get them on all over the press and all over the social media in 5 minutes. And there will be much larger downtimes or much larger outages in perhaps other businesses that we don't even hear about anywhere. But you have the slightest outage with these systems, and they hit the press in no time. And that's for all the right reasons, because that's the expectation. Even I do that. I mean, I do almost all my payments late in the night, and I don't expect them to fail at that hour. So that availability and reliability around the clock, although it's like taken for granted, but the reality is that it needs to work at that level of reliability, and that's there. And now with the the expansion of it going upstream and not just payments, things like even the customer onboarding, like video KYC and the things like that, digital KYC, etc. So it expands your financial ecosystem much wider and gives you a better scope to onboard. Like someone like Geo, we don't have branches. We don't have we are not SBI. We don't have we have no branches actually. So if I need to onboard a customer across the country, I need to be able to onboard that customer from wherever he or she is located digitally with the same efficiency or better than he or she would have if he walked into a branch of a particular bank. And that's the critical thing about how to get this to go to the next level and expand much wider than what it is right now. Sorry, you're on mute, Prasanna. Sorry.
Yeah, I just said that I'm feeling so blessed that I think we got into this discussion. We just started what are the points we will be discussing, and I think if anybody is listening all of these points, I'm sure he will be full of knowledge, right? So Sumoth, I think looking forward, right? So Federal Bank, right? They have been shown how API banking to be built or open banking, and after building, I think there are a lot of innovations. Jupiter, right, which is another
Okay, Prasanna, there is some disturbance.
forward, your views more like a bank if wants to ride on a fintech journey, or do you feel these fintechs are really helpful? We have seen a lot of numbers of fintech, but as if you compare ourselves as India to UK or US, the number of challenger banks or number of neo banks coming in India, we don't have that ecosystem as of now. Although regulation around the challenger banks, we had to look at how this P2P driven, right? P2P was driven like NBFCs, right? That's how. Do we see how long it will go, right? So, what is your view on this? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Prasanna. So I'll tell you because I'm looking at this maybe open banking or fintech partnership in a different angle, basically. See, earlier there was a view that, of course, these fintechs are just evolving; they will be competitive to the bank. But what we, as in Federal Bank, what we see is as a complementary to the banking business in the country. We have got because we started this open banking through API maybe way back in 2017 itself. We started this developing API sandboxes and all. So right now we have got around 200 plus APIs with sandbox, and anybody can just try this and what is. And plus, we have got around right now we have got around 50 plus partnerships for using this API banking. It is across various industries. It can be it's either from the lending business we have partners, merchant acquiring business we have partners, and you mentioned about the neo banking. Neo banking, two of the topmost neo banking partners. Partners in the country actually they're partnered with Federal Bank, and it's in the almost all the banking verticals we have partnerships, whether it's lending, whether it is merchant acquiring, digital onboarding, whether it is what is the remittance business, credit card. We have got a co-branded credit card with one of the fintech partners. So all the ecosystem we have partners, and in the future I'm seeing this will only grow in the future. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are seeing them as a competitor, because what I say earlier mentioned, in a fintech partnership, what we are doing is, see, as a bank, as a commercial bank, Federal Bank is offering all the banking integrations and all the regulatory aspects we are taking care of. And what the partners bring to the table is that they redefine the customer experience for them. So basically, that's how we see that. Of course, we as a bank traditionally, all the banks have a little bit maybe back in the giving customer experience to the end user. So there they have more experience, more expertise, and more more experience in the expertise in that particular angle. So we are seeing it as a collaboration where. As a bank, we provide all the banking pipes, relationships, regulatory aspects, control measures, monitoring aspects. That and all we as a banking partner take care. They redefine the customer end user experience for them, and they of course along with that banking products depends on each partnership. They give other value-added services to those customers. It can be wallet experience. It can be some other services. Let's say maybe a piggy bank kind of things. That depends on each of the partners. How what is their target segment? What is their customer segment which they are targeting? And another advantage what we are seeing is that we are getting a entry into one particular customer segment which Federal Bank was not getting earlier. So that's the opportunity which we are seeing.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
Great.
so that's
Great.
how we see the open banking partnerships right now.
So I think so. What we've been discussing about what has happened or how we are doing it. What is a near view, right? So I think there is another internet type of things are coming in, right? People talk a lot about blockchain. It will change the banking or it will change everything, right? That's how the power of a technology all about. But it will take a lot of awareness, internal COE approach, consortium based use cases where mindset of all the bankers has to be aligned, right? So it's a very heavy duty exercise which telecoms has done very nicely recently, right? Or SMS, or there are many other ecosystems they have done. Or if you talk about NFTs, not many things, metaverse, so many things are coming up, right? Uh, and these things are real. Why? Because so much of investment is happening. Look at top 10 global banks investing into cryptos or DeFi's and making it ready. Visas, Mastercard on a payment ecosystem, trying it out with some of those cryptos, to be part of some of the CBDCs, right? Many other countries implemented or rather part of some of those POCs of CBDCs. Now that's the future after 3 4 years, right? And by the time we reach there, cloud will become normal technology, blockchain will become normal technology, AI is already being part of everybody's strategy, right? And without API or open banking will not survive. At least those banks who are not part of that will be wiped out. And we'll need a lot of standardization in this part so that we reduce that timeline for every fintech to integrate with a n number of banks, right? So banking as a service model, which is coming up, I think lot many things are coming up. So what's your last advice? I think we are here since last 5 minutes. What's your advice that while you are driving your current digital transformation, we have seen pandemic, so many things have happened, too much of collaboration within bank, outside of bank. Here onwards, I think if you want to reach that level or you want to don't want to miss that bus also, which is Web 3.0 or something like that, what is that we should do? So last maybe in 2 minutes we can and then we can say we can conclude this session. Yeah, Anu, please.
I think I've had the chance of going first on few questions, and I'm requesting my
Yeah,
friend.
maybe Jagdish is our
Jagdish,
expert
your
to.
thoughts?
Yeah, Jagdish, please.
Sure, sure, no problem. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you're absolutely right, Prasanna. So that it the like the quotation, the future is here types, tomorrow is here types. That is true. Uh, Now, what the banks, as banks, what we all need to be thinking about is how to make it more inclusive. Whether it's open banking, whether it is UPI, whether whatever it is, it's all about bringing all partners, all stakeholders into the ecosystem as equal partners, and not having this Dada bank which has got the full control of the customer and the accounts, and it runs the that it's a more democratized mindset. So the moment we think of every product in that manner, so when we architect a product, we straight away think about it as to how many partners. It's not just how many customers am I going to get on the product. That is one, of course, the biggest thing. But how can I enable all the partners to get that, come onto that product and participate in that product? If we think about it right at the outset, then we are more ready to sort of welcome all, be it fintech partners, be it any other just merchants, be it just about everybody into that ecosystem, and then widen it that much more. And that is the fundamental thing that today, the way I see it is a requirement, that we think about every product. When we think about a new product, we see how can we rope in all the players in the ecosystem together right at the beginning, and then take it as a play across the board to the nation as a whole. Then it becomes a lot more wider play, even as we start, rather than it starting off in a sort of in a mono manner with one player coming and launching it and then going organically, etc. That those days are past. That's fundamentally the whole thing, and then that's a bit of a mindset change when we design new products from scratch. That's the main thing.
I think, and that has to come from regulator. They have to create those guidelines
Absolutely.
before they launch CBDCs and so
Exactly.
many things. So we have
Exactly.
a lot of learnings of UPI and many other ecosystem. Here, a
Correct.
lot of our Indian tech influencers are announcing ONDC and many more things, right? So it's a great time to look at, right? I will be so happy
Exactly.
that we create a India ledger which talks to all banks, all the
Ah,
insurance companies, decentralized architecture, wherein every customer is so happy. I have done KYC once because I have done digital identity once. Let it be
exactly.
utilized everywhere. Yeah. So Sumoth what's your view? Like, what is that we should look at in the future?
Yeah, maybe as you, Prasanna, as you mentioned, the CBDC, maybe it's a maybe 2 3 years down the line only. Maybe that will evolve. We have to wait and watch how the regulations come and. But two or three things which I see in the immediate future, which can it's in the scope of redefining the payments in the banking, especially in the BFSI industry, not only banking, BFSI, financial service industry. One is an account aggregator. We just briefly mentioned earlier. So I am seeing account aggregator at this point where UPI was maybe 2016.
Yes.
So as I earlier mentioned, how you pay. So this is one of the big things which will happen in the maybe next 1 year, maybe 12 to 18 months. Account aggregator will be a big thing, and we are actually Federal Bank was one of the first bank to onboard into the account aggregator business as one of the maybe top five
So
banks.
just for your interest, I was working with a tech company, and they are ready with the consent mechanism on blockchain. So the teams, while the things are done by banks and Rebit and Samadhis and all, fintech ecosystem also watching how they will be part of this ecosystem, right? So certainly I agree with you. What UPI done for payment, account aggregator will do a lot of instruments, savings account, current account, SME, lending, and many more. Yeah, Anup, last views from your side.
So thanks, Prasanna. I'm sure we're running out of time, but this is my last statement, and it's going to
Yeah.
be more generic because we've got experts on the payments systems, Jagdish and Sumoth, who made a very incisive remarks. But my limited point is, I think under this whole buoyancy of digitalization of payments and payments ecosystem, my only limited point that is, that my 20 years experience tells me is if people keep eye on consumer and solving consumer real problems and making a consumer being more efficient, it'll work better. Digitalization for the heck of digitalization, for the heck of investor money, valuation, fancy word, jargonization is great things to be. We've lived in jingoism, and we've also seen India very uniquely behaving where cycle of industries coming and cycle of industries failing is the fastest in India, because sometimes the maturity curve of really solving a problem and structurally solving a problem and keeping that growth economically viable for both the provider, because if it's not viable for the provider, it will not be viable for the customer, because consumer will suffer if businesses are not profitable. Services will suffer. And I'm not going to say some examples on what happened to telecom. We've seen 2000 where it really boomed to rates coming from 16 rupees incoming to 1 rupee, and it suffered on players not existing, viability of business not having, consumer experience being trashy. Unfortunately, some players pivoted and got it right, whether it was, I don't name players, I'm not here to promote them, but we've got to be very cautious. They say if things are not built on structural readiness, it'll collapse. And this collapse is what will not just be fundamental for India growth story. In my view, it is defining for India growth story. Okay, we'll be very
Absolutely.
cautious, but very treading with fundamental levels and not being very, whole jingoism like life is, all pinks and blues. Not that way. It's got to be more pivotal and more grounded.
I think the way we are discussing and Anup and Jagdish and Sumoth, I think it will go on and on. I think it's
Yeah.
opening a lot of threads. How do we really do it? I think especially Anup, your views very grounded, and how do we really do it? And Jagdish, hats off to you the way you are driving at the whole ecosystem. Somaji will be always be connected. So look forward to be in touch with you all. Thank you so much, organizers, Elets Technomedia, for inviting us for this discussion. Look forward. Yeah.
Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you so much, speakers, for sharing such great views. Now, as a token of appreciation, we would like to present the appreciation certificates to Mr. Prasanna Lohar, Vice President Technology, DCB Bank. Thank you, sir. Mr.
you.
Sumoth C, Vice President and Head Digital Banking, Federal Bank. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jagdish Narayanan, Chief Information Officer, Reliance Jio Payment Bank. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Anup Seth, Chief Distribution Officer, Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance. Thank you, sir. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
joining today. Thank you.
Thank you. A great
Thank
chat.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you, Acha. Thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe.